Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming in. My name is Jessica Hemingway. I'm the program manager of the CISA Foundation, here to talk to you about California State Summer School for the Arts, also known as CISA. And this is the Visual Arts webinar, department-specific webinar. We are joined by the incredible, the amazing Visual Arts Chair, Sherry Bond.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome.
We're also joined by some CISA admin support. We've got Ellie here, and then I believe we have Deborah on this call too. So we're here to answer all of your visual arts related questions. Before we dive into everything, all things visual arts, I'm just going to run you through a little bit of nuts and bolts about CISA in general, and then we'll dive into the program. So if you have a question, you can go ahead and pop it into the chat. Make sure you're muted. And then at the end of the short slide presentation, you can unmute and ask your question, or we'll just dive into the chat and start answering questions. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, we're talking California State Summer School for the Arts, also known as CISA. It's a month-long summer residential art program for high school students in the state of California. We're state-run. We've been around for almost 40 years. Our community is composed of over 400 students, and we have about 150 faculty and staff that support the students during the summer session. So the ratio of student to teacher is about 3 students to 1 teacher. And that's a lot of individualized attention and one-on-one time with your instructor. We pull from across the state as it is part of our mission to represent each of the 58 California counties. In addition, we have a small number of students who come from out of state and even international regions. We keep that pool small to about 20 students out of the 400 plus student community because we want the bulk of our population to be California State students because we're a California State program. It's our mission to represent California's diverse cultural heritage through our students, through our faculty, and through our curriculum. So as I said, we're residential. So we're located on the Cal Poly Pomona campus. And coming to CISA is your opportunity to live like a creative college student while you're still in high school, get a little independence, a little time away from the parents and the siblings to kind of, come into your own, try on that higher education life before you go off to it. So while you're on the Cal Poly Pomona campus, you have access to all of the amenities that the school has to offer, state-of-the-art technology, labs, shops, performance spaces, studio spaces. You're going to live in the dorms, you'll have your meals in the main cafeteria. CISA provides 24/7 safety and security for you, including RAs that live in the dorms with you and are on call for you. And then it's not all work and no play at CISA. We also provide recreational activities and field trips for students to engage in when you're not working on your art. So the application deadline is coming up. It's February 28th, 2026 at 6 p.m. You want to make sure you have all your necessary documents and assignments completed by that final hour at the latest. The CISA team will review your application during the month of March, and notifications will go out mid to late April, maybe even early May. And we always say, we stress, fill out that application as early as you can and submit it as early as you can. At least 48 hours before the deadline, if not a week before, is a good idea. You'll be uploading some things, some assignments, some samples of your work, and you want to make sure everything is smooth sailing. You don't have any uploading issues, but if you wait until the last minute, sometimes, things get a little hairy. So you want to make sure you're submitting that successful application. And then the application itself has 4 main parts to it. The first part is you're going to enter your contact information and that of your parents or guardian. The second part are references. We just require 2 references, the contact information of a teacher, a mentor, a college counselor, somebody that, if we have questions about your application, we could contact them, though we're not going to contact everybody. The third part are transcripts to certify your grade level. We're not looking at grades. You can upload an unofficial copy to the online app. And then the fourth part of the application are the arts assignments. And since this is the visual arts webinar, we will go through all of the nitty-gritty for the visual arts assignments. So maybe we'll head into the visual arts overview. Sherry, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Okay, so the visual arts program has classes that are in ceramics and digital media, drawing with a focus on illustration, painting, photography, printmaking, and sculpture. The class schedules consists of 5 courses that you take in a schedule that's different from student to student based off of the choices that they select in their application. Everybody takes 2 required courses, which are figure drawing and a artist lecture series that's called Arts and Culture. Both of those meet 2 times a week. And then students take what we call their major area of concentration. So that will be something that meets 4 days a week, which is a studio class in any of the disciplines that I just mentioned. And then they also round out their schedule with 2 additional minor classes and studio courses as well.
Awesome. So let's dive into these arts assignments. So assignment A, can you talk a little bit about this, Sherry?
So you can see here the assignment number A asks you to choose a work that represents an issue that interests you, personal, social, political. Any sort of media that you want to use for that is fine. I kind of like to think about this one as you're looking out into the world, and the concept of your work sort of explains something about that you're interested in.
Great. And then we'll go on to assignment B.
And then assignment B really is about you as an artist, as a person, something that interests you to create an individual work that kind of reflects who you are. And this one I like to think about as internal. So you're looking inside yourself and sort of showing us a little bit something about you. You know, when we're looking at the applications, you're sort of showing us who you are as an individual.
Amazing. And then assignment C.
And then assignment C is the technical aspect. So you want to choose a piece that best represents where you're at in your experience technically. So whatever those medium might be, your sort of technical proficiency for the material.
Great.
Some things to consider. We have a limited number of classes in digital media and drawing. So, think about those 2 choices when you submit your application, what your major area of interests are. And it's good to submit work that has been prompted by yourself rather than just the typical class assignments that you might get. Remember, you want to kind of stand out. And so if you're submitting a drawing that's a class exercise that maybe, a significant portion of other applications are also submitting, sort of doesn't stand out as much as something that might be self-directed. Again, it's all about you and how you solve problems, what your interests are.
Awesome. And then assignment saving. This is pretty much standard,
Yeah,
you're gonna see a lot of assignments, Sherry, so you want to make sure, or students want to make sure that they're naming things correctly so that they don't get lost. Correct?
yeah, I think following the directions is always important. I think naming strategies for files when you're uploading things, if you follow the directions, there'll be least likely to be issues with viewing those files. So,
Well put. And then for returning students, I'm not sure we have any on this call, but if there are students who want to return, you would like to hear a little bit of the reasons why, correct?
yes, we have, a large amount of students that apply, and we have a certain amount of students that we can accept, and we want everybody to be able to experience all that CISA has to offer. And so we don't select a lot of returning students. So it's important that if you are applying as a second year, that you show some significant growth from your time your original time at CISA, and then submit a little essay about why it is important for you to return.
Awesome. Great. Well, that's it for the slides. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share and dive into the chat. I see we have a lot of questions in the chat, so I'll go ahead and spotlight Sherry, and I'll spotlight myself. And then we will be primarily focused on answering questions that are visual arts related. And then uh, after we get through all the visual arts questions, we can go into some more student life questions, and I can pass those along to Ellie. But let's dig into these visual arts related questions. First questions we have. There are 3 required projects. Can someone turn in 5?
You're limited to the 3 uploads, I believe, in the application platform. So if you were, I mean, we've had applications in the past, particularly for the technical submission. If they're doing figure drawing, they might combine maybe 2 examples in one file. Something like that could definitely happen. Photography, if it's like a serial piece, they might put, like a triptych or a diptych together in a single file, but you're limited, I believe, to just those 3 kind of uploads.
Great. And Sherry, can you maybe go into a little bit more detail on assignment B, the create an original work that reflects who you are? Kind of what are you looking for in this assignment?
This one it's pretty open, so it's hard to say, it needs to be this or that. Really, it's just a way for us to kind of see who you are, like where you're coming from, what your interests are. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, you want to get kind of an idea, there's no
Yeah, like some way to, like you're telling something about us, about yourself in a visual form, whether that's, sort of person that you're interested, a place that you're interested, a thing that you're interested in, a story that you're interested in. I mean, I think it's pretty open.
yeah, this is their introduction,
Self-expressive, right? Sort of.
exactly. Okay, so for piece or assignment C, does it have to be related to their first or second option that they choose for the visual arts program?
No, I would say that if you are selecting as your first choice drawing, digital media, or painting, you definitely want to have one of those submissions in there because it'll show that you're sort of at a certain level to be placed into a major class of that discipline. So if you are selecting one of those three options, having that as your technical or at least one of your submissions is important. But with some of the others, sculpture, ceramics, even printmaking is not as regularly offered out there in high schools. And so you would have less experience in those areas. So if you select that as an option, I won't necessarily be looking at for a submission in your assignments.
Awesome. And for assignment B, if it's not obvious how the piece relates to them as a person, can they add a sentence or 2 of explanation?
I think it's possible, yeah. I know that there is an explanation for assignment A that's listed, kind of written piece, a little paragraph that you describe what it's about. I think that there's a way to do that for the second one as well.
Great. And for ceramics, since this is such a studio-based discipline, can students show work from classes, that they've created? Is that okay with
Yes.
you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely studio driven, right? You have to have access to a kiln, for example, which it's not something you typically would have in your home. So that's possible.
Great. Awesome. And we've got a supply related question. Will students need to be bringing their own supplies, or will their art supplies be supplied for them?
No, we supply everything that you need to create the assignments for the classes that you're in, the projects. I'll be provided for you.
And do you recommend them bringing any of their own personal supplies?
They should definitely refer to the student handbook on what's allowed and what's not. Think about, especially if you're coming from a long, sort of traveling a long way to campus, what's important to bring packing wise. But yes, it's possible to bring some art supplies to work with outside of class as well. Whether or not you'll be able to bring those items into class will depend on if there's any restrictions within like some of the studios.
Great. And we have a question relating to sculpture. What exactly comes under that section? This student particularly does fashion design, and they're wondering if that's gonna, cross it all with the sculpture major.
Mhm. We have done soft sculpture working with fabrics in our sculpture classes. There'll be a variety of projects and materials that you work with, plaster, wood, other type of found materials, wire, and fabric. We have sewing machines and such within our equipment, so it's certainly possible.
Great. And do all the pieces that students submit for the arts assignments have to be new? For example, if they have something that they did separately that they could use for the technical pieces that allowed.
Yeah, it's definitely um, something that's been, sort of within the last year or so. You don't need to create a sort of new piece for everyone.
Great. And can someone include text/writing in their drawings and paintings?
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of text, right, sort of work comes into play in a lot of the disciplines. And so if that's part of the work, it's certainly possible. I can think of like digital media, for example, if you're interested in graphic design and you're making posters or whatnot, definitely has a
Great.
text.
Love these visual arts related questions. Keep them coming. Okay. Now, is there a major or minor that would relate to collage?
I think if you're interested in, I guess it depends on what kind of collage. If it's physical sort of type of collage, painting or drawing might be the sort of direction that you would sort of go into.
Cool. And can someone use reference work for a drawing, or would that be considered plagiarism?
Well, again, we were sort of looking for original, unique types of works. We also want to see some type of skill through observation is important as well too. But if you have a photograph, for example, and you're drawing from it, I mean, that's part of art practice, so it wouldn't be an issue.
Cool. Another sculpture related question. This person likes to use paper mache and scraps of cardboard and magazines. Does that still fall under the sculpture category?
It does, yeah. I guess going back to that collage question, they do bring in different materials in sculpture. It's just 3D instead of two-dimensional.
Great. And we have someone else who has made a mask with 3D elements with different mediums like plaster, cardboard, clay. Should they include that for assignment C if sculpture is their second option?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great. Okay, I'm going to roll through the chat real quick again here. I'm getting towards the end, just wondering if there's any more visual arts related questions. If anybody has anything more visual arts, pop it into the chat. If while you're thinking of them, I have a couple of questions that come up for me on the recruiting trail.
Okay.
Sherry, is it possible for students to switch concentrations when they get to CISA?
I really do rely on the first and second choice to sort of help me figure out the labyrinth that is the scheduling for the students. We have a lot of students in visual arts, and it's a big task that happens before we get to campus. And so it is, sort of possible in some instances. It just depends what's available in the classes when we get there So if they look at sort of what the class rosters look like and there's spots that are available in some of the classes, it's certainly possible to switch. I just wouldn't say that it's guaranteed, particularly in those areas that are kind of popular. And like I said, digital media and illustration.
And will students get to explore any of the other subjects outside of their concentrations?
Well, the within this, you're talking about in visual arts and specific in their classes. I
Yeah.
try my best when we're scheduling to give everybody their first choice as their major class, and then their second choice as one of their minors. But then there is a third minor class that's studio driven that every student will be assigned that they won't be aware of. And so I try to do that to give everybody a well-rounded experience of visual arts. So if your first choice and second choice is 2D driven, then your third class will probably be third dimension, so ceramics or sculpture, whenever possible. So it gives you a good variety of classes to take.
Awesome.
Is that what you were kind of getting towards?
Yeah, sometimes I get like, oh, if I, choose drawing and sculpture, but I really want to, learn ceramics as well, will I be able to take a ceramics class?
Mhm.
Those are the kind of
Yeah,
questions.
I mean, it's hard to say, like specifically what your schedule might be when you arrive, but if somebody was to look at the sort of three studio classes that they have, and one of their, let's say, minor classes isn't quite what they were interested in or wanted to take, and there was a spot open in another class and it kind of fit with the flow of their classes, it would certainly be possible.
Wonderful. Okay. Diving back into the chat here, I see we got some more visual arts questions. So how many students are in the visual arts program?
It varies. It's usually around 150.
Great.
150. I think our sort of max size is 160.
And then how big are the individual classes?
They can vary. We don't, I try to have them not go over 17. We max out at 18, but they're probably around 16, but some of them can be really small. So it could be that maybe a ceramics class might have 10. Just depends year to year what the group of students look like, our
Great.
class.
Got a printmaking question. It's got a couple parts to it. First is what can be considered printmaking? This person wants to show carvings out of stamps that they've made, or should they show their carvings out of stamps that they make or prints that they make out of stamp? Is there a size regulation?
No size regulation as long as you can document it. And it would be good if we looked at the print version instead of the carving.
Great. Here's a good question. Can the second choice be outside of visual art?
You're applying for one specific department, so it will all need to be into visual arts. Whether or not there'll be opportunities to take sort of interdisciplinary classes or workshops in other programs will just depend on what the other areas have determined for this year.
Exactly. And then we always like to remind students that if there is like a lecture or a screening or a workshop that's open to all and that fits within your schedule, CISA is really encouraging of students that as long as it fits within your schedule, if you want to check out something else in a different discipline that is open to having visitors, that, people can go ahead and try it out or attend.
Yeah, our classes are during the day. So Monday through Saturday, we have morning classes that start at 9 and then they end at around 11:45. You take lunch, you're back in class around 1:15 until 4. And then in the evenings, Monday through Thursday, we have something that's called Open Studios, which is student kind of directed time when they can go into their classrooms from 6 to 9 if they need to catch up on coursework, to spend some additional time in an area that you might want to explore more. But it's really open time. As long as you're on track, if there's something that's going on in another department and you want to see a performance, watch a movie, do one of the other activities, hang out with the people that you meet. It's kind of like free time as long as you're keeping track of your coursework.
Awesome. Thanks for taking us through day in the life. That was another one of my questions. Okay, popping back into the chat here. Someone wants to know if they choose photography as their second choice and don't have much experience with it, do they need to include photographs as one of their pieces?
No. Um, the more than likely or not, if you choose photography as your second choice, that will be your minor class, and it's like an introductory sort of level class. And they supply all the equipment that you would need, so you wouldn't need to bring a camera or anything.
Great. And we have the same kind of question. Somebody who's done primarily drawing and painting, but is interested in ceramics. And if they choose that as their second choice, would they need to, provide an assignment that
No.
aligns with it? No.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, I think ceramics, printmaking, even sculpture, you could choose that as your first choice without any experience because there's, as I said earlier, not that much opportunity for students to get experience with that within their high schools. Those classes are more hybrid in their experience level. And so you'll have students that have hardly any and then a little bit more experience. And so the faculty sort of structure the curriculum around sort of introductory sort of practices in those instances.
Awesome.
I mean, you should really take advantage of CISA, like those, if there's something that you've been wanting to do, a medium that you've been wanting to explore, and don't be afraid to select it as your first choice. As I said earlier, painting and drawing and digital media, you want to have some experience within those areas. But if, ceramics is something that you want to have some experience with, um, don't feel like you can't select that as your first choice.
Great. And can you remind us again how many classes visual arts students will be taking throughout the week?
They take five. Four studio classes, well, which includes figure drawing, and then the guest artist lecture series.
Great. And can you talk a little bit about what kind of guest artists you invite to come be a part of that series?
I mean, it changes from year to year. I try and give a sort of well-rounded experience, different sort of parts of creative endeavors. A lot of interdisciplinary artists come to the lecture series. Classes also invite artists to come and speak to their students, so those will be more discipline driven. So,
Mm,
like painting class might have a painter come in and give a lecture or do a demonstration or something. But outside of the classes in our art and culture series, it's opened up broadly to thinking more about art and culture in society and how a creative individual sort of navigates their world. So it varies.
great. And what about the work that students make during the summer session? Is there a way that they're displayed? Will they be having, we be having
We,
galleries that are open for
we do
students
have
to see?
exhibitions that are displayed during their time. Students are asked to bring a piece, a personal piece with them. It's optional, but that's the first kind of showing that we'll have sort of displayed in a tandem with the visual arts faculty show. And then as the classes start making work, we display that throughout the 4 weeks there during CISA. So there'll be a number of shows that students display their work in.
Awesome. So we're coming to the end of the visual arts related questions. Again, if anybody has any more questions related to the visual art discipline, pop them in the chat. I see one that's more application based. Maybe Ellie, you can answer this question. Uh, so is the application a little bit more competitive based on what country you're from, since we have that small pool of students who come from out of state and out of country?
Country or county? I think it's the
Oh,
county, right?
I misread it. Excuse me. Based on what county? Thank you, Ellie.
Yeah, we do seek to have representation from all counties in California if possible. That happens more on our outreach side, as Jessica and others are traveling around getting the word out about CISA. I would say the application is mostly reviewed on the merit of your assignments more than anything else. So, really put a lot of attention into creating really good work to submit.
Well said. Well said. Okay, we have a dorm-related question. Student handbook says that we can't tape or attach anything to the walls without prior approval. How do they get prior approval, and what are the regulations around it?
I can answer that probably on my end, and then I don't know if Ellie has follow-up to it. There may be some times that the faculty might have students display things in the hallways, or they even do, like in sculpture, they might do site-specific work, and the faculty arranges that through the visual arts office. I think that if there was a student that wanted to do something like that independently, they would speak with me first, and we would sort of make sure that it was okay with the campus and whatever sort of specific rules were being followed.
Great. And then in terms of the dorms, I think it's same with the student handbook. You can read to see, what kind of things you can bring in your dorms, and you can ask your RA certainly, like, can you hang up a poster? But then there's certain things that aren't allowed, like candles. Can't bring candles into a dorm. Or some dorms don't allow extension cords. So definitely refer to the student handbook, which I think Ellie popped into the chat here just to see on the dorm side what's available to you and what's not to
Just
bring.
use that as an example. That is 2025's student handbook, so it's from last year. There will be some changes since we're moving to a new campus, but it gives a good example. You can get an idea of what it's going to be like.
Good jumping off point. Thanks,
Yes.
Ellie.
The 2026 one should be on our website probably around April. April.
Wonderful. We have another host site related question. We will be at Cal Poly Pomona College in Pomona, California. That's the new host site. That's where we'll be. And I could put the actual physical address of it in the chat so someone can look it up.
Yeah, we
Um,
visited the campus and it's really beautiful. It's nice, lots of outdoor gathering spaces and things to be visually inspired by. There's a cool rainforest.
it's incredible. It's a beautiful facility, lots of space, like Sherry said. And yeah, lots of things to be inspired by. Definitely. And then Ellie, we have another student related or student life related question. Are students allowed to travel off campus to go to shopping centers, get shampoo, souvenirs, stuff like that?
The off-campus policy right now needs to be established. So in that area, there's not really a shopping center that students can easily walk to. However, on campus, there is a market that that supplies that kind of stuff. So it could be that students might not even need to leave campus on their own in order to go shopping for that kind of stuff. So again, once the new student handbook is out, in April, it'll include all of that information.
Amazing. And one more location question for you, Ellie. Is there a specific reason why the location changed from Cal Arts to Cal Poly Pomona?
We've been in multiple locations in the past, and different campuses, and we had the opportunity to be at Cal Poly Pomona with their awesome facilities and their brand new residence hall, and it was time to make the move. So we're really excited for this new partnership.
Yeah, and excited for the students who come to CISA 2026 because you'll be the first students to be at CISA in this new location. So you'll be, part of a very, very special group, I think. Sherry, I'm going to pop one more visual arts related question for you while students are thinking about any more visual arts related questions. So in the painting concentration, what kind of paint are students going to use?
They primarily use acrylic. There might be, some sort of drafting or exercise sketching that might happen with pastels or something else, but their main sort of material will be acrylic.
Great. And is there any certain dress code or things that they need to bring, like closed-toed shoes or gloves or aprons or something like that?
We usually send out when a student is accepted and they get their letter. At some point, we'll send out something that sort of goes over things to bring and think about. A lot of the studios will have specific types of, sort of regulations in terms of closed-toed shoes or to have long pants. Particularly if you're in something like sculpture. Um, yeah, I mean it's summertime too. It gets a little bit warm, so
Yes. Want to make
sun
sure you have
visor, I
layers.
think.
Yes, bring a sun hat, bring a visor, bring some sunglasses.
Mhm.
Okay, in terms of sculpture, is it all right if the sculpture for one of their assignments is nude from the top up?
Yes.
Great. You don't censor. I love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, any more visual arts related questions? Pop them into the chat here. While we have an audience with the incredible visual arts chair, send us your questions, your burning visual arts related questions. Thank you for taking us through day in the life, Sherry, of a
How
visual
does
arts
it? Do I
student.
think like I covered
Yeah, kind
everything?
of
I don't know. Feels like I'm
feels
missing.
too early.
Yeah. Feels like I didn't say everything, but
Um, ooh, we got one more. Ooh, someone is torn between architecture and sculpture. They want to know if they'll be able to apply for both. The question is yes. Yes, they will be able to apply for both. Sherry, do you have any thoughts and opinions in terms of, if they get into both, what they should choose?
visual arts.
Of course.
I don't know. I think it's a tough one, like it's a new program, so it's hard to say. But it does sound very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I'm like visual arts is dear to my heart, so I don't know, it's hard to say. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're interested, another example would be animation. We don't do animation in visual arts, and so if you're interested in that, you could apply to both as well. We do a little bit of time-based work, but not a lot. So film would be another area that's kind of close to visual arts as well, too. So
Yeah. You're not biased at all, Sherry. All right. Thanks so much for putting more visual arts related questions in the chat. I'm going to dive back in here. Does the medium that someone used for their assignments affect the application process? For example, using pastels or watercolors?
no.
Oh, great. And then someone took photography in school, but that photography usually revolved around wildlife photography. Would they be allowed to explore that, or is there a lot of wildlife for them to photograph on the
Yeah,
campus?
definitely think that this new campus will have more visual opportunities for photography. And so you'll be able to, they have a studio there, so there'll be some studio work, but there'll be some outside exploring of things as well, too.
Great. And going back to applying for more than one discipline, yes, students are welcome, encouraged to apply for more than one. It just furthers your chances of having a summer at CISA. But if you want to apply for more than one, you do have to submit an application for each discipline for which you're applying to, which means the arts assignments will be different for each application. But you're able to kind of copy and paste the rest of the, contact information, transcripts, that kind of material in the application. And then same with the financial aid portion. Again, would always, of course, fill out financial aid information for each discipline that you're applying to, but you can copy that information from that first application in terms of financial aid info. Hope that's clear. If it's not, Help me clarify, Ellie. All
Sounds
right.
good.
Thank you. Okay, diving back into the chat here. Ooh, what mediums will be explored in the drawing major?
In the drawing major, it's a kind of hybrid between traditional drawing materials, so pencil, pen, ink washes, but they also do digital renderings
Great.
as well too. The minor
Amazing.
will just explore traditional drawing materials. Pencil, charcoal, ink wash, um, different variety of papers,
Great.
wash maybe.
And certain disciplines sometimes do take field trips. Do you have any field trips planned for this summer? Or maybe you could give us an example of field trips that visual arts has gone to in the past?
We don't have anything scheduled at the moment, but in the past, a lot of the classes that have taken field trips have gone to art museums, so galleries, art studios, artist studios. Photography in the past have gone on photo capturing field trips, um, things like that.
Great. And another supply related question. So if the supplies were that they need to use are digital, would they be provided that the digital material like a tablet or
Right.
computer or
Yeah.
something?
So the illustration major class will use iPads.
Great. We have a transcript related question, which I can field. We ask for the transcripts only to certify your grade level. We're not looking at grades at all. So don't feel embarrassed or feel ashamed or feel nervous about submitting those transcripts because all we want to do is verify that you're of age to come to CISA. You can be as young as eighth grade going into ninth grade, all the way up to a senior in high school, going into that freshman year of college. So between that, graduating high school and going into college, you could still have a summer at CISA. And between graduating eighth grade and going into high school, you can have a summer at CISA. You would be surprised how many seventh graders try to slip in there. So that's why we want those high school transcripts. But just saying, we're not looking at grades. Not at all. Okay, we got another visual arts related question. For someone's technical piece in the application, they drew a portrait and had it printed, tore it up to make it more visually interesting piece. Should they include both the torn and untorn art pieces or just one?
They can show the original if they want. Again, it would have to be side by side in the same file, as kind of like a reference piece. I think if they just uploaded the completed piece, as long as it shows the kind of rendering, the sort of mark making of the pencil so that it's apparent that it was hand drawn as opposed to a sort of photo image collage or something would be okay.
Great. We have another question in here asking if CISA looks good on college applications, specifically art colleges. Sherry, you're nodding. Yes, would that be a yes?
Yeah, I mean, it gives you, like when are you going to have a very concentrated time to spend just making art? Doesn't happen all that often, and your skills do improve, particularly in those areas that you may not have explored before. And so, like if you're somebody that's interested in applying to visual arts program, for example, having a sculpture piece in your portfolio, it shows, right, sort of really strong breadth of experience. So,
Amazing. And yeah, CISA is a pretty prestigious and pretty rigorous program. So it definitely looks good on a college application. It looks good on a resume. And since we've been around for a really long time, there are a lot of people out there that know about CISA. And if they see that on a resume, on a college application, it's going to be like, oh, you went to that program. Great. Okay. For assignment C, can that be a digital drawing piece? The
yes.
technical one. Great. And we have someone asking about how many people get into CISA. You said, Sherry, that the visual arts program is about 150 people. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
150 to 160, but I think all of CISA is like 500 or something.
Yeah, it's around there. Broken down into different ways, but biggest program, visual arts. Love it. Okay. Diving back into the chat here. Let's see. We have an accommodations question, Ellie. I don't know if you can help us out with this. So on the application, if a student needs a certain application or has a certain disability, can they name it on the application? Is there a place for that?
Yeah, there is a place, I forget what page it's on, but there is a place where you can list um a physical or communicative disability. Um, and it doesn't get factored into whether you get accepted or not. It's just more like info on our part. And then if you needed, like, let's say later on you discover that you got physical aids or something like that, there's another opportunity to relay that information to us. So during the enrollment process, we give you all these forms to fill out, and one of them is a medical form. And so on there is another spot to kind of go more into detail about any sort of like accommodations or any kind of like stuff that you might need. And that's again just info for us so that we can better support you.
Great. Thanks so much, Ellie. Another visual arts related question. Sherry, about how many applications for visual arts do you receive each year?
I mean, I think it goes higher and higher every year. I don't know. Does 600 sound right, Ellie, or is that too much? It feels like a lot.
Well, I feel like that's not enough. I
I
think
don't
it's a little
know.
higher than
It's a
that.
lot.
Great. All right. Any other visual arts related questions? We're kind of coming to the end of the hour here, so we'll do a last call. Anything else visual arts related? I'm going to pop into the chat the email. If you have any questions about CISA, you can email comments at cisa.ca.gov. Any questions about the application process or about student life or, the summer session itself. We also we're going to do a bunch more webinars. We have a general info webinar coming up on February 11th. We have a financial aid related webinar coming up on February 4th. And then we're going to have an alumni panel on February 18th. So there's definitely more opportunities to get your questions answered. There's not a visual arts related question, but someone wants to know how much extra money they should bring for the summer session for souvenirs or going to the student store and getting swag. Ellie, do you have a suggestion on how much extra money someone should bring?
We don't give like a dollar amount just because it changes so much from person to person. Definitely consider like there are laundry machines that you'll need to it's like app operated, and then you bring your own like detergent and stuff like that. And then, some people like to get the food outside the cafeteria, so obviously they would need to bring more money. Um, so I think besides laundry, there's not too much else to consider. And then, so yeah, beyond that, it's just kind of pocket change based on your preferences. Maybe you want extra snacks or something like that.
Yeah, maybe you want some Cal Poly Pomona swag.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another student life related question. Can students still go home on the weekends like before? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. They will need to be signed out by a parent or guardian, and arrange that, prior to them actually leaving the campus. But of course, when you get in, this whole process will be detailed and outlined to you so that everybody knows exactly how it's going to work and how to do it the right way.
And
Great.
there are on-campus food vendors. So you may not need to leave campus to buy outside food that's outside of the cafeteria. So there's the cafeteria, we pay for all the food there. But if you want like Panda Express, there's also a Panda Express on campus.
And I think there's a Starbucks on campus too.
Starbucks, yep.
See, bring some pocket change for that. And then we have one more kind of admin related question. If somebody has an event on a weekday or a class day, will they be able to be picked up by a parent and leave?
Um, Unfortunately, no. So during CISA, you're going to be very busy. There's going to be evening events that'll be required for you to attend. So if you need to be checked out during the weekday, um, why don't you email us? If I guess it depends on what it is. If it's like a medical reason, we've had made exceptions in the past. So why don't you email us at comments@cisa.ca.gov and we can look into your specific situation.
I think there might be some information too in the student handbook.
Yeah, there is a policy in the student handbook, so go visit that as well.
And someone is just confirming that a student can't choose drawing and digital media as a major and a minor, right, Sherry?
You can, I just can't guarantee that you'll be able to get into both. So if it turns out that, sort of both they're full, let's say with all of the majors or whatever, and the minor class, there's only one of them, it's kind of filled with the overflow, then you might have two unknown classes for your minors as opposed to one of each. If that makes sense. It's just because those two are popular and we don't have a lot of classes in them, becomes more difficult.
Great.
Like I said, I try my best to give both choices, but it's not always possible. So
It is a Rubik's Cube,
it's
trying to fit everybody in where they go. All right, one more student life related question. Is there a gym on campus that students can have access to?
Cal Poly Pomona does have a gym on campus. However, it's not part of what CISA is offering. Um, it may be possible that there's like a day pass that students can purchase in order to access the gym. However, on campus, there's trails, there's natural areas. If you like running, or jogging, like you can jog around campus to get your exercise that way.
Great. And do students have classes on Saturday?
Yes, there's a class, required class part of the schedule, Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon is open studio. So again, it's part of the open studio schedule where if you need to go because you need to catch up on something, you should go. But otherwise, the afternoon schedule is free time.
Engage in those recreational activities. And then Sunday is a day that
Day
they
off.
don't program classes, but we go on field trips.
Right. Yeah, our required class times are Monday through Friday in the morning and the afternoon, Saturday morning, and then our art and culture time is usually on Mondays and Fridays, kind of in the evenings.
Great. And we have a field trip related question. How many field trips are there? There will usually be between 2 and 3 every weekend that you're at CISA, if I'm not mistaken, Ellie. And then we have an attendance question. Is attendance mandatory? First of all, yes, but then is it okay to miss a class if they're sick? Is sickness an excused absence?
There are no excused absences. However, uh, you if we miss 3 classes, then you may be asked to leave CISA.
And then we have one college credit question. Is college credit earned? Yes, if you graduate through the program or at the program at the end, you will earn the college credit. It's kind of pass fail.
Yeah, we don't give grades. You get right sort of through the program with your certificate at the end by attending all your class sessions and engaging in the coursework. So presence and engagement. Then you
Got it.
apply for it after the fact, college
Yeah.
credit.
Well, Oh, and the dates of the program are July 4th to August 1st. So you'll be spending basically the whole month of July at CISA. And I'll put those dates in the chat here. 4th, 1st. Cal Poly Pomona, July 4th to August 1st. Great. These have been wonderful questions. I think we can round it out. I think if there's no other lingering, burning questions, then thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, everybody who asked questions, who joined this webinar. And we're so excited to receive your applications and have you join
I
us
know.
this
I
summer.
hope you guys apply.
Please apply, and get those applications in
Apply.
early. Get them in early. Submit them at least 48 hours before the deadline, if not a week before, February 28th. All right. Thanks so much, Sherry. Thanks,
Thank
Ellie.
you.
Everybody, have a great
Bye,
night.
everybody. Have a nice night.
Bye.